The following episode is brought to you by Poison City Brewing, proud makers of Durban Poison Cannabis Lager, the beer that invites you to live your poison.
I don't know if you guys want to start like jumping into this and then getting into the core concept here. So wanted to just talk about like the roots and just fun memories of the scene and things that you guys have experienced.
Yes, teacher Marcel.
Sure. Been a while now.
So I think this maybe I think I'll start first. So I'm Byron. I've been part of the metal scene since about. I'm an alcoholic. I've been part of the metal scene since about 2005. That was my first metal gig I ever went to was 16 Stitch, The Narrow, and Red House at the Varsity. The Varsity had a beer fest, and that was the first mosh pit I ever saw. And that was the first time I actually met Matt. Met Matt that time.
Alrighty. I remember when they still had shows at the Varsity. That was long ago.
Like I said, 2005, dude. That's like I actually stretched my brain. I was like, what the fuck?
Is that in Durban, hey?
This was actually in Maritzburg. So
Was
in
it?
Maritzburg.
Oh, right. So there's more than one venue in Maritzburg.
Believe it or not, there were three.
That was what he's talking about. The actual Varsity.
Like the actual university.
Yeah,
they at one stage they had like massive like high budget shows there, like proper hired sound and marquees and all sorts. It was actually quite rad,
It's sick.
When you think of Pietermaritzburg, like I don't personally think of like massive gigs, dude. It's so like on the side. Like I only ever think about like Red Door or something. I think Matt, you mentioned that you like be a DJ there or something.
Red Door was one of the best venues in the country, like back in the day. It was the perfect mix of, you get some places that are like really awesome. They've got hectic budgets, you can see that they've spent a lot of money. But Red Door had the right amount of underground, but, with the right amount of gear, you know what I mean? So you could have a draw there without, I don't know, feeling out of place. I don't know. It was so special, man. I miss that place so much.
I miss Red Door so much.
Yeah, it was underground, but too dodge. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. Like some places, like Rumors when it was by Cresta, like had such amazing shit. Like there, like really awesome desk and sound and all that. It was a really awesome place, But I don't know. Like it's metal. You need to have a little bit of like grit in it. You know what I mean? That's the way I think.
No, for sure.
Yeah, no doubts. I think Byron actually transitioned us perfectly to Matt. I think, bro, just before we jump to venues and stuff, we can move on, Matt. Just let the people know who you are. And then we could probably move on to Brian and then Dane. Sweet.
Yeah, so I've been listening to metal for like pretty much my life. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I was like, okay, cool, I like metal, so I'll learn to be a sound engineer. So I went to Varsity to become a sound engineer, met fellow metalheads, joined bands, and now, I don't know, 20 odd years later, I'm still going to gigs, still doing sound at gigging. Yeah, so it's I don't know, it's my life though. I've seen a lot of bands come and go and venues come and go and all that. So yeah, a lot of history to talk about.
Sure. Can you even talk about pre-94 gigs? That's how long the family's been.
You're not that much younger than me, bro.
Brian, dude, let the people know who you are, man.
Cool. So yeah, I was the Facing The Gallows frontman for 10 years, between 2007 to 2018. So just over 10 years. I even got a dolphin above my knee tattooed. It's a dolphin with sunglasses and it's got like a gold chain hanging on it with the word 10. me, Ray, and Chase got those matching tattoos to represent 10 years in the band together. So that was awesome because I really wanted to get one of those forever. So I did that for 10 years, stopped doing that because my voice fucked out, my throat fucked out, I was in hospital and shit, and I needed vocal rest, and I just struggled to kind of get back into it after that. I still love metal, I still love music, I'm just struggling to get back into actually writing and actually just trying to I had a few projects in the mix after that, but nothing really picked up. And I was basically involved in the metal scene in South Africa since like 2005, I think you could say, as well, around at the same time as Byron said. But I was going to gigs even before that. I think the first gig I went to, I was 15 or 14, and I went to Roxy's, and I watched Pestroy, 16 Stitch, and Oddball. And the Oddball show blew my fucking head off. Like, they were like heavy as fuck, and I was just like, I've never seen metal like that in this country. It was this noise, it was chaos, and I was just like, I want that. I want to start a band like that. Met Shane, I was 15 years old, and he bought shots for me and my father the entire night just because we were like, we love Pestroy. And we got hammered of shots, and I ended up having to drive me and my father home without a license at age 15 for Marvel. So and it all started from there, and that was all downhill. That's basically it. That's my story.
So has your dad been joining with you all this time, like since then?
Every time. He's basically the biggest Facing the Gallows fan ever. He was at literally 80% of the shows. He came with me to Wacken. We got to watch him together at Wacken. It was a strange experience, watching the band I grew up growing with and doing for 10 years, watching them perform in like the biggest festival in the world. But that was an epic moment, and he was there as well, and he's been to all the other shows, and it's just crazy. I mean, Gallows even have a shirt, like a vest with his face on it. Like, the whole shirt is just my dad, because like he's just crazy metal fan.
It's so cool.
Yeah, super cool.
And you're also forgetting that you were also Ollie Sykes' body double at one stage.
Exactly. Well, he was mine. He used to go into the hairdresser and be like, I want to look like this guy. And I know. You'll never grow a cool beard though. You'll never. So fuck him.
That's what I was around about that time.
I remember watching Facing the Gallows when it was Gallows, Pestroy, and 16 Stitch. I think it was actually 16 Stitch's last.
It was one of their last. You talking about the show at the Red Door? Yeah. It was the one at the Red Door and the one at Burn as well. I think it was Burn the next night. That was crazy. I think it might have been one of the first. It was like one of 16 Stitch's last shows there, but it was also Gallows, one of their first shows there. And the kids there were like, they're crazy. But like, I don't think they really understood what a breakdown was. It was just like, I don't know if maybe it was like new metal night and like all the new metal kids came out, but like we played breakdowns and it wasn't like they hated it. It's like, it was just like they didn't know what to do, like how to react to it. Like, what's happening here? What is this? It's pretty cool.
Marisburg was stuck.
It was a bit slow, Marisburg.
Marisburg was stuck in new metal for a very long time. It took a very long time before anybody even heard like Bring Me the Horizon.
At least you guys had different, like at Red Door, they played like different music. So like when we'd go there like a year later, it'd be like a new playlist. Like, I mean, Dane, you'll know this, like when at Jester's in Port Elizabeth, like you go there and it was just like the same playlist every weekend, Friday and Saturday for like 4 years. So we'd play Jester's and it'd be like, Here Comes the Cracker, Black Dahlia Murder, Despise Icon, and you go there the year later and it's the same playlist, and then you go there the year later, it's the same playlist without fail. Best times. It was a good venue actually as well. Sure, miss that place.
Chester's was awesome. I did go to Chester's. It was a really cool venue.
They had a little arcade machine in there, like one of those old school ones. You put like R2 in, and like it was like one game, and that's it. You could just draw that. I can't remember. What is the game called, man? It's like a butt fighter type game where you walk and you kind of like there's a few of them out.
It's like something, dude.
What's that?
It's like Streets of Rage or
yes,
like
that's the one. Streets of Rage. That's exactly it. That was the drawler. It was the best.
Guys, sliding in there perfectly on that Beats of Rage comment. We got Dane, who's also, part of the panel tonight. And yeah, bro, let the people know who you are.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm Dane. I've been in the scene pretty much since what? Like, I've been in like multiple bands over the years. I was a vocalist for Betray the Emissary for a while. I played drums for a band called The Broken Result. Then I started playing drums for a band called Megalodon, which I'm still in now. Currently still play drums for a band called Last One Alive. And then the most recent one is a band called Dream Demon. Just in terms of like music, I started playing music with the whole mentality of like, let's start a band. Like we were like, it was a few of us that were all into like metal and whatever, and we were just like, yeah, let's start a band. And by default, I was like, okay, cool, I'll play drums. It wasn't specifically like I wanted to play drums like because, oh no, I want to play drums or anything. It was just kind of like by process of elimination. It's like, okay, cool, you'll play drums, and cool, that's just essentially how it happened. And then out of all of those guys, I'm the only one that's still playing music at the moment. So I think it also kind of speaks to how much music means to me. And then, yeah, like my first show that I ever went to was at Edgemead High School, watching Nashama, and I think it was Aftertaste. I think there was a third and a fourth band, but specifically I remember Nashama. And yeah, I mean, that whole scene at that point, like it was, I think that's probably like one of the most active times that I've ever seen, like in Cape Town specifically with bands. And that's kind of what drew me into it. So yeah.
My first live band that I saw like locally, I think was in like 2000. Was actually a Christian metal band. Called Two Fly. Like they were actually super, super rad. And I remember I went to the show and I was like moshing my head off. And then it was at this like Christian event, and I was the only guy like moshing to this band. And then like it was so weird because like I was moshing to this like Christian metal band, but there was all these Christians around there, but like no one was into, like they loved the band because they were a Christian band, but no one was joining in. And then afterwards they did like a service, and then everyone like started like doing their thing, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'm done with this shit, I'm fucking off. that was like in 2000, I think.
Sure.
Nothing against Christian people, just like it was just, like it was a awesome metal band, and then I was like throwing down, and then it was just weird. I'm enjoying this, come enjoy it with me.
Cool. But they were just dude. Like with all of you guys, like for me, this is sort of like a learning experience because I'm not really that experienced when it comes to metal and stuff. Like my first show is something that I saw, I think that time when Ramfest was still a thing in Durban, and it was the year when Bring Me the Horizon came down, Rise Against came down. Pit was on the lineup as well. Fucking love them. They were the first, I think, South African band that I saw play, and I was just mind fucked. Like I was actually like kind of bummed when they sort of split up. So it's really just a privilege for me as well to be in the presence of people who have been doing this for a very long time. And just want to thank you guys for coming through to the show. Really looking forward to where we can take this conversation.
Yeah,
that's true. That was the show that was at Burn. I mean, not Burn, at the skate park. It was at the skate park, wasn't it? At Gateway.
Gateway.
In Gateway.
That was easy. My favorite gig that I've ever been to. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my phone out to charge.
No, it's all good. Like I remember like the first time, like when Bring Me the Horizon played, they did like a Wall of Death, and at that time I was like, what the fuck? Because I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what the fuck is this shit? It was brutal as fuck. Enjoyed it. That's when I just fell in love with this thing, So it's dope.
But you also have to remember what Ali didn't give clear instructions when he did that one movement. I'll show you guys right now as soon as I actually able to get my camera back on. But he used to do a move, but he did like this thing with his hands where he was signaling that there needs to be a Wall of Death. he would do this thing with these hands, sort of like that, and that was signaled to do a wall of death. And then like nobody in Durban knew what the hell was going on because like we had not seen anything like that.
Yeah,
this was pre-uncapped days.
Yep. So yeah, it was that in my opinion was my favorite gig that I've ever been to. Like Bring Me the Horizon, like that was a mental gig.
Yeah, you know, I like when I think for with what you guys were talking about earlier when you came on in terms of venues, you guys mentioned Red Door a lot. You mentioned Burn a lot. Burn is one that keeps coming up, you know, even like here, especially here in Durban, when it comes to, you know, the history of metal and everything that used to happen there. And I'll take it that, you know, the majority of you guys in here have either been to Burn or performed there. So what would you guys say, starting on a positive note, what would you guys say, you know, made Burn, you know, as good as it was? Because for someone like myself, you know, that when we sort of were introduced to the scene, Burn no longer existed and stuff. So what was it that made Burn so good? Like even, you know, performing there and all of that. Anyone can take this. Bryan, I'm interested in hearing what your.
One thing I really loved about Burn was there was like like you'd go like it was like 3 levels, and like the second level would be like where the band's played, and then there was the top level on the roof where everyone would chill, and we'd like come from Joburg, and you know everyone would be at the top, all the locals are hanging out there. We'll be sitting up here, and like no one's by the band section, and we're just like, okay, well, are we going to play to no one? Is no one going to come down here? And I remember they had like a monitor, like a screen on the like the top floor on the balcony where everyone would sit, and you could see like the band setting up and stuff like that. So there was like a camera by the band stage, and then it was like obviously projected into the screen, whatever, at the top there. And every single time a band played, it doesn't matter which band it was literally like everyone that was on the top would literally stop what they're doing and they'd come down and they'd watch the bands. And that was great. I thought that was great for like the community and stuff like that, and all the supporters and stuff like that, because like they'd just stop what they're doing and they go watch the bands. Whereas in Joburg, a lot of the time, like, you know, there was like an outside section where people could drink and smoke and chill, whatever, and bands played, like half the people wouldn't give a shit. They would just be there, you know, just to get fucked up, and they wouldn't really care about the bands and stuff like that, which sucked. But I really liked that part about Burn, where how everybody was a community there, and like they were all there to watch the music and watch the bands. So that was great. I love that.
I think that was early days of that venue.
Yeah, so it was
because
there were two. It moved. Hey, there were two variants of Burn. I don't think we ever played the first one. I think that was the second.
That was the second one. And as awesome as it was having the two levels, you know, exactly what you're saying is that guys would just be chilling outside, and then, you know, they'd be like, you know, it's too much of an effort to go downstairs. You know, it's cool out here outside in the cool air and all that. And that's eventually that trend, you know, took over, you know, like you're saying in Joburg. But to go with regards to the history of Burn, so Jamie, who owned the Red Door in Maritzburg, he was the original owner of Burn. He had a place called Jamie's, which was like back in probably the early 90s. He had a place called Jamie's, and the Jamie's burned down. It burned down, and then they reopened it. Reopened it. Like whatever time passed, reopened it as Burn, and then that's, you know, basically how they got the name. That venue was basically where, well, half of it is the engine room of where's Winston? What's the jewel upstairs called? Origin. Yeah. So that's where Burn was. Half of Origin was Burn. You know, plus there's the warehouse in the back there. So that was the original Burn. And then, it was so awesome back in the day. And then it moved to the second venue, which at first was really rad. I mean, it was nice and big and all that. But then, you know, as time went on, you know, people couldn't sustain it, you know. So, but I mean, it did have a good run. I mean, it went on for, I don't know, 15, 16 years.
I never went to the first place.
Do you have any fond memories of Burn, Byron, on your end?
Yeah. It was my first gig. My first gig I went to played at Burn, and also I watched Instagram live, and what was cool about how Burn was, especially with the setup, is you were literally like were in touching distance of the band. So I watched like an international band, and I could literally like touch the singer's guitar. It was that close.
It was a really nice sized stage.
I wish they'd moved it though. I wish it wasn't like the long ways. I wish they had it like the other side, because that pillar just fucked you up so badly. There's like a pillar in the middle of the dance floor.
Like hearing you guys reminisce about old venues and stuff like that, what would you guys say, like in your personal opinions, is the venue that you guys miss the most? Like as each individual person, a venue that you've played that you've always just loved that's no longer there.
I think it's kind of twofold for me. I think it just depends, but I think one at the moment would be Mercury, because it got to a point where when I started playing at Mercury and seeing bands at Mercury, it was like the venue itself was on a pedestal for me. It was like that was kind of like the pinnacle of what a venue should be like in Cape Town, you know. And then I think over the years, I kind of, you know, I took it for granted. I won't lie, you know, and it would get to the point where when we were having discussions, you know, like with band friends and stuff, it's like, oh, where's the gig? Oh, guess where the gig is, kind of thing, you know. So like, you know, and I feel super shit for that, because like it was actually a super rad venue, and whenever I played there, like the sound was amazing. So yeah, Mercury's at the top of the list, and then the second one, but more, I never played it, but it was my favorite venue to go watch international bands, was Assembly. I know that Assembly now, I think it's like been sold and it's split into like 3 different places, but I mean, I watched like some of my all-time favorite bands there. I watched Every Time I Die there. That was like one of the craziest shows I've ever seen. I watched August Burns Red there, watched Fear Factory. Like, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of really influential bands to me that I watched at Assembly, and because of that, and just like the vibe and the sound was always good, and it was a massive venue. Yeah, it was just always a good time, man.
Yeah, I went to Assembly and Mercury in Cape Town. Yeah, I loved them both though.
Did you ever play Raw?
These are obviously much more recent though.
Yeah, I played Raw like a lot. But the thing is, like with Gandalf's and Raw, like I definitely, like, I was pretty sad when they closed, but there were so many iterations of, I don't know, like of places owned by Antonio that I pretty much experienced them all. From when I was a teen, he had One Ring, which was just up the road in the same road. And then he had Mordor, which was upstairs, which was what Raw was previously. And then he had Gandalf's downstairs. Gandalf was the only one that didn't change. It stayed the same. Then One Ring closed. Then Mordor upstairs became Raw. Then the place next door became Gotham. Then Gotham became Mordor. Then Mordor closed. And then it was just Raw and Gandalf's. And I think I've played Raw more than any venue in Cape Town.
Dude, that explanation was almost like like I needed a conspiracy theory board to just pin everything together and make a flowchart. Like, good God, what? Like,
need a family tree.
Yeah.
From It's Always Sunny, and he's standing there in front of the board with like the different things.
Yeah, dude, like, it was fucking crazy.
My earliest memory of Gandalf's was, this was probably about 2003, 2002. I don't know. I went to Cape Town like on a holiday, and like I went there with a friend on like a Wednesday or a Thursday or something. It was free entrance and it was free beer. I arrived there, I had no money, you know what I mean, just because like I was young and stupid. And then like people would come up to me like, you know, you don't have a beer in your hand, there you go. And I'm like, no, like, who the fuck are you, bro? Like, and they're like, no, it's free beer tonight. And I'm like, sweet. So that was my earliest memory of Gandalf's, and so it's a positive one.
Yeah, they always had some.
Where was this video?
Gandalf, bro. Like, and I think at the beginning, or at least like round about the time, like I also started going there when I was like 14 or 15, but I had a specific agreement with the owner that I wouldn't drink. Just as long as we got to play the shows, you know, like, because I mean, yeah, they were still very strict about IDs and everything back then. But yeah, like going up through those years, and then I finished high school, and then that gap year, the gap year that I took between, yeah, like ending high school and then like whatever, that year I went there probably, geez, dude, almost every single night of the week, every single week, because I had a friend that would literally just party there all the time, to the point where like at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'd be like, hey bro, like I want to go home. And he's like, no. And we'd literally be there till like 5:30 in the morning. So that kind of added to me getting over the venue, but it wasn't so much about bands and stuff. It was just like that kind of experience. But I never took for granted that whenever we played at Raw or Gandalf's, the sound was incredible. Antonio was always such a rad dude. Yeah, like, Gandalf's, I probably, like, most of my teen years going into my, like, 20s, like, I spent most of the time there, I think.
We didn't actually talk about the two versions of Red Door as well.
Yeah, well, there's three, technically, because Red Door initially opened up as Burn Pietermaritzburg. And because Jamie had sold Burn, Burn to Dave Campbell, and it opened up as Burn PMB. And I remember the opening nights, like they hired a bus, and like all the Burn regulars from Durban came up to Pietermaritzburg and joined on. I think it was like a Wednesday. It was like hectic. I mean, the scene was was thriving so much back then. And then, from what I understand, I mean, don't hold me to this, but I think, he had to pay because he had sold the rights to the name, he had to pay like a royalty or something like that. So eventually he was like, nah, he's just going to rename it, and then renamed it as Red Door. And then that was at the original venue, which was still cool. It was a decent size. And then it moved, 2Ks down the road to where this, I don't know, like it was like a dance club, and then they overtook it. And both versions of the Red Door was awesome. Like for me, that was the place I missed. I mean, I loved Burn and Durban, but the Red Door was in its heyday was the shit. I miss it so much.
I actually agree with you on that one, because the first club gig I ever went to was at the Red Door. I was actually, again, I was watching 16 Stitch, and that was the first time. That crowd was so amazing. Like literally, the entire dance floor was just moving around with the mosh pits. It was the craziest thing that you've ever seen in your life. It was like just this swarm of people just like moving around like that.
Yeah, no, I miss it.
It was such a rad place. Brian, on your side, bro, are there any venues that you miss, from back in the day?
Yeah, venues that I miss. Tempos, yeah, that's one. I don't know if any of you guys ever went to Tempos or played Tempos.
I went to Tempos. It was really cool.
That was a cool one. I mean, that was quite a large venue. There was like 3 different like parts to it. Like you would walk in and there'd be a stage already there, and there were like these little steps to the stage. I stage dived once off there, and I fell and like fucked up my back, and Paul from Dean Crescent had to click my back into place just so I could walk. Then if you carry on going further, there was another like a biker stage where it had like this. The stage was quite high. Like Hesiday played there once. It was like crazy, and like we played Thornfest there. Like before it was like a fest where like you could actually stay over. We played there, and this kid Lorcan from the East Rand, he stage dived directly into a fan, and she slipped a disc in her back, and we had to stop the show and get an ambulance. That was hardcore. And then if you carried on even further down there, then there was like a thatch area, and they used to like every Sundays they'd have like trance parties there and stuff like that. So it was like a super sick venue because like it had it all, it had like the small stage, the big stage, the club stage, and like just a whole mix of different people, and it ran throughout the week, and it was just that was super, super sick. We still, like, when Gallows first started, they had a guitar giveaway, and Chase at the time, he didn't have like a really good guitar, so we all like entered when we got there, and we were just like, if anyone wins a guitar, we're gonna give it to Chase, and we actually ended up winning it. So Chase got a guitar, and I think he still has the guitar actually. It's a Jackson. And yeah, we wrote a lot of like our first music off that guitar, so it was super, super rad. Just thinking that venue kind of gave birth to what Gallows became, kind of, in a way. And then another venue was Olive Lounge. It was in Olivedale. It was like a small, dingy ass like club bar type vibe, whatever. But like it was super rad because like everyone would party there on like a Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday. And they weren't too strict on IDs and stuff like that. So like a lot of kids would like go there, and basically car bar was just like another level there. Like, you know, like I think half the time people were in the car park than in the actual venue, and we just get hammered, and like it was great fun. And they used to do shows and stuff like that, but they didn't have an entertainment license. So half the time and the shows would get shut down by cops. And then the one time I remember the cops came and like they raided the entire show, like pepper sprayed Oak, shut everything down. They shut the power down like 3 times, and we kept turning it back on to play. And Ricky so called one of the cops up, puss on the microphone. It was pretty epic. Yeah, fun times, good memories. Those are 2 venues that I really, really, really miss, man.
Dude, I think I met you at Tempos, dude, because we played that Hammer the Masses show, dude. And that was I met you, and I think that was one of the last shows that they had at Tempos, because I remember playing it and being like, this is such a fucking rad venue. And then everyone I speak to is like, yeah, too much of it is like closing and stuff. I was like, what the fuck? Like, how can it close? It's such a rad vibe. Like, yeah, no, that was
the first time we met? Was it not the time when we came down to Cape Town, and then that Thursday night we went to Gandalf's and we picked you up and
that was after that. I remember that fucking
right.
Evan's place where you breathe. You just wouldn't shut up, and I couldn't breathe. Like, nah, dude, I've never laughed so hard in my fucking life.
It was good fun that time. I think you broke a glass from laughing too much. It was good fun, man. Good fun.
You know, Brian, dude, the way that you just explained that, it's it gives me a sense that shows were just so epic back in the day. Would you guys say that there were any differences at all, you know, from looking back from when you guys were sort of introduced to the scene to how it is now in 2020, and what sort of differences would you say there are? I think for this one, we can start with you, Byron.
I think, unfortunately, one of the big bad things is there are less venues, so that is a bit of a sad state. But I think also just the crowds just seem a little bit. I think from the last, the first time that some of the first shows that I ever went to, like, it was always just crazy mosh pits, like especially like in Maritzburg, and like it was so many bands used to like love coming there. And I remember chatting to I think it was the guitar player from 16 Stitch as well. He was like, "Oh, this place is like it's like our favorite venue to play, and like, you know, we always have such a good time." And I think just like the crowds just started to get stiffer and stiffer along the years. At least like in terms of like going to gigs, like it would be a little bit tougher to just like start mosh pits and stuff like that. Which I suppose everybody gets a little bit older, so not really. Moshing isn't as moshing kind of leaves a few bruises and stiffness the next day. Whenever there are gigs, it does seem like there's still like a bit of a camaraderie between all the different metalheads that you meet, and that's still cool to see. Like, there's like a lot of like old time friends that you see, like you like think to yourself like, these are nuns dude like about 10, 12 years, like from back then. So there's like a lot of like that kind of camaraderie that still does happen.
Dane, would you sort of, do you share the same sentiments as Byron, that it used to be a lot more pumping than it is now? Are there any positives maybe, or, you know, what's your take on it?
Like, based on on any discussions that I've had with anyone, and like, you know, previous discussions and whatever, like, yeah, the scene it constantly goes through a life, death, and rebirth cycle. And I think that back in the day when I started getting involved in the scene, like there was so much variety that that's almost was almost the reason why the scene was so big. It's because you had like ska bands and punk bands playing with death metal bands and new metal bands, and so like all of these different kind of I don't know what like genres of like alternative and like heavy music, like they would all play together. And because people would just rock up for the shows and they would just watch whoever was playing at the time, that almost guaranteed you like a massive crowd, at least in Cape Town that was. And then it got to a point where things started like segregating. So, like it got to a point where people who specifically wanted death metal, they would organize like death metal only shows and then punk shows only. And so, bands that were relatable would play with each other, but you wouldn't have such a massive like diversity in terms of the different genres. So I think that when that happened, there were a lot less people coming to shows. And then, I don't know, like a few years after that happened, then the scene started growing because even though like those scenes are like kind of like within themselves, the scene of people will eventually grow, and then the cycle will change where people will get older, leave the scene, new people come in, that kind of stuff. But there were also a lot of underage shows, and I think that was a big thing that used to happen previously that doesn't happen now, which probably, I mean, if they had to start that now, would be amazing. But yeah, it's not, like I said, like each scene or each period goes through a cycle. So, I think at this point, like COVID's done like a number on wherever the certain scenes were. But yeah, man, I also think that there's not enough people that are pushing to have, I suppose, like the younger generation come to shows. Like previously, like people would go to schools with like flyers, or they would like advertise on social media and stuff. Whereas like nowadays, the advertising on social media, like printing flyers, like dead medium. So people don't do it. They don't waste money, like unless it's like big posters for like venues that are over 18. So I think that's one way that we could get the scene back to its former glory, is start, like marketing to like a younger crowd and getting them involved, because they're essentially the next generation that needs to roll on to the next. So,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense, dude. Matt, are there any, positives on your side in terms of how the scene used to be compared to now, or is it sort of this like similar thoughts to and Byron?
Yeah, there definitely was that variety back then. I mean, when I first started performing, there used to be like punk versus metal shows, where there would be, like say 4 bands, and it would be or 6 bands. It would be like 3 punk bands and 3 metal bands, and they would alternate, and it would be rad, like the different genres weren't an issue back then. As it started pumping more and more, then, like Dane said, they started having more and more sort of segregated shows where they were more, genre specific. It was really good at the time, but then you kind of keeping those core people within that genre, and you're not actually growing it over time. It did sort of change. Like, obviously I like heavy music, but I don't exactly want to listen to like the most brutal shit all day every day. It's nice to have that dynamic, I think. So that's what some things like that changed over the years. But but the main thing was just there was just so many more people. That's why there were so many venues, because there were so many people and you could sustain it. And then you couldn't, and there were so many people back then that we didn't even know that back then the sound was good or bad or whatever. It was just like, fuck yeah, there's a band and they're awesome, and then like thinking to like the technology and the experience that we've got now, like all that stuff back then was probably crap. I mean, like I remember playing shows. We didn't know what the fuck monitors were. We didn't have monitors. There was no like, oh, these guys have got this hectic DBX crossover, and there was none of that shit. There was no digital mixers and all that. We just played our shit and it was awesome. And but there was just so many people, and the vibe was there. You know, now it's like everything is technology has grown, but there's not as many people, so it's like more people are critical of certain things. I don't know. It was good times. I mean, it's really awesome now that we've got all these advances, but yeah, I wish we still had those people that we had back then.
I always felt like I joined the metal community like quite late, because I only got involved in music in about 2014. I mean, it was when I just started playing. My 2013, 2014 was when I'd started performing and getting introduced to the music scene. Like, previously, not knowing it was there at all. What would you guys say to someone getting involved in the community now?
Sure. I think I'd tell them that they need to be prepared to sacrifice a lot. So basically, it all depends where you are in your life. You know, if you want to start becoming a muser or getting involved in the scene, you know, that's something I've learned over the last 10 years doing what I was doing. You know, it's just the sacrifices that come with it. You know, the money you have to put into it yourself, because you're not making money out of it. You know, so especially if you, like, I was a vocalist, so like, okay, cool, I invested into some gear, but you know, not as much as obviously say a drummer would or a bassist or a guitarist would. You know, so you have to invest a lot of your money and your time. You know, if you're married or you have other commitments like work commitments, you know, a lot of that stuff takes the back burner sometimes, so that you can focus on your dream and your passion, which is music. And sometimes, you know, you have to weigh it up, you know, which is more important. So it's a mental battle, you know. I think for me personally, I went through it, you know. It's one of the main reasons why I ended up leaving Facing the Gallows, because that mental struggle, sometimes it's very difficult, and everyone's different, you know. Some people might struggle financially, or some people might struggle mentally, you know, or something of the sort. So it's very taxating, you know, on your health and your financial health and all that kind of stuff. So I guess the advice I give to people is, if they want to get into this, you know, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to basically bite the bullet and, you know, and sacrifice a lot. That's just what I've taken from it, from my side.
Yeah, and I'm very interested also, like in Dane, your perspective as well, you know, being in Megalodon and the success that you enjoyed as well. Would you say, you know, something similar to what Bryan said, in terms of it's a lot of sacrifices?
Yeah, so I think like it would be to two different audiences like that I would give advice. The people that are supporting the scene, the advice that I would give them if they're coming in is support the local bands. Like, obviously, like I'm not an elitist in any way, but I call a spade, right? So if you're going to support the band, right, support the bands that you enjoy, but actually support them. So buy their merch, and you know, like, do whatever you need to support them, because as a band, like, most bands try to be self-sufficient, and like that helps them to kind of keep the band going with funds that are made purely, they don't actually have to put in their own money, you know. So that's the one thing I would say from people supporting the scene. When it comes to people that are in bands, my biggest advice would be, yes, like, definitely, like, you need to be aware that sacrifices need to be made, but further than that, something that comes down to like a basic foundation level is be open to feedback. If people are going to tell you that your music is like shit, if they're just being a dick about it and they're like, yo, your music shit or whatever, then actually, like, don't take it personally. Don't be like, go up to them and ask them why it is shit. And like, obviously, like, there are certain things that if you have an artistic vision and that is literally what you're trying to get across, if you do not want to compromise on that, then by all means, carry on doing what you're doing. That other person doesn't know what they're talking about because they don't have the same vision that you do. However, if that person, if they have like experience in the scene and they might see what you're trying to do, but don't know how to bring it across to you that this is what you need to do that, then take the time to actually think about that. That person actually made the effort to come and tell me that. Let me go to them and ask them specifically what it is. If it's something that you can change or that you can compromise on in terms of like the vision of the band from your side, then 100%, it'll more than likely make you a way better and tighter band in the long run. If not, then push forward with whatever you have, but always just be open to that feedback. And then it's up to you as to whether or not you want to compromise. I think that's very,
pretty
very
rad.
important.
Like I like that you had two different perspectives there, from supporters and from the bands themselves or the artists. It's a really good thing to have.
Bands must support bands.
Yeah.
Yes, no, most definitely.
You know, the one thing I have noticed, you know, from what Matt just said, is that, you know, I do feel like bands sort of are supporting bands, because you'll find, like at a normal night at the Winston, you'll find that, or you'll often find that the people who are generally, you know, at the venue watching the other bands are the band that just got off the stage, or the band that's going to be playing in the lineup and stuff. And I think this would sort of go hand in hand with what Byron was saying earlier, in that it just less and less people started coming to the shows. You know, would you guys sort of, you know, attribute that to something? You know, what would you guys say would have sparked or caused, you know, the venues and attendance sort of, you know, getting less and less? Who haven't you heard from in a while? Brian?
Dubstep, for me in Joburg, I think that was the declining factor. Like, it was like, when was it? It was like, I'm trying to think what year it was, like, I don't know, it was like 2014, maybe somewhere around there, 15, where dubstep became a big thing. But like in the metal scene in Joburg, you know, and like, I think a lot of the times, like, you go to shows and it would be like half dubstep, half metal. Like Pestroid used to delve a lot into, they used to play a lot of shows with like DJs into dubstep and stuff like that. And it was really cool because everyone, like even metal people, started to enjoy dubstep, but it segregated the people a little bit too much, so that eventually, you know, people would stop coming to metal shows and then they'd just start going to like drum and bass and dubstep shows, or like DJ events. And I'd go myself, you know, because there were parties, they were rad, you know. And I think things just got a little bit too divided then, and a lot of more people that would actually come to metal shows stopped going to the metal shows and started to just go to the party vibes like that. Then it became more of a sense of, it was more about the party than the actual music. That's something that's the turning point for me locally in Gauteng that I picked up on. Yeah.
That's very interesting, dude. Like, yeah, what about, you know, okay, before we get to Durban, because we're from here, Dane, on your side, bro, when would you say the decline sort of started and what sort of caused it? We do understand from what Brian said, it was dubstep up in Joburg, in your part of SA. What would you say sort of caused it, and when did it sort of start?
So, like I said, like in terms of the whole like life cycle, you get life, death, and rebirth. But if you're talking about like currently in the current cycle, like I would agree with Brian, like at that time with drum and bass. However, I think it was slightly delayed in Cape Town. So yeah, there were a lot of metal people that would go to those shows here, like, and they would have a lot of those shows at like what we would consider the metal venues. But I think that, yeah, the bands that were playing at that point in time still retained their own fan bases. I think it was maybe about a year or two after that where, yeah, I think that the drum and bass thing, like, it did have its effect here or there, but on the core fan base, it didn't really. I think it was when bands started realizing that, you know, they're all growing up and, you know, they need to focus on their careers and they're getting married and those kind of things, and then bands eventually end up breaking up. I think that's also that's what led to the decline in Cape Town specifically. There were a lot of bands that were breaking up and they were calling it quits, like within a quick space of time. And like even up until today, obviously COVID hasn't done anyone any favors, but I mean, during COVID alone, I've seen so many announcements of bands saying that they're calling it quits, you know, and I think COVID was probably just the last straw.
Even notable bands, yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy. It really is crazy. I mean, like, yeah, seeing overseas bands, like international bands, calling it quits. Like, I think if international bands are calling it quits, then you can understand. Like, to see a few local bands calling it quits, like it's not something that's unrealistic, you know. So yeah, that's what I think contributed to the decline of people attending shows in Cape Town.
Is it the same vibe down here in Durban for Byron and Matt?
I think there's a couple of things that sort of attribute to that. One of the things that you have to sort of, I think one of the elephants in the room is the fact that, if Durban, if you, it's kind of it's the biggest small town in the world, and one of the things that a lot of people just tend to forget is the fact that if you want to start a bit of a career, you do want to, you will move to Joburg, or you will move to Cape Town, or especially in the South African sense. I mean, you will go overseas and you will sort of pursue this sort of path. And you'd find that a lot of fans would go up to Joburg, or they go down to Cape Town, and then sometimes you'll find that that parts of bands would actually disintegrate because one or two of the members had moved. And sometimes they'd be an integral part of the band. And also, people growing up, people need to, there are families involved, and there are careers that need to take preference.
Yeah, at first I was like, where are you going with this? And then you actually make a lot of sense there. Yeah, because I know just in my one band, my drummer, he lost his job and ended up moving away to Joburg for a while. So I mean, there was that, and then Patrick, who we jammed with the tribute, he ended up he went to Cape Town for a little while, and so that definitely did happen for a lot of. No, that's recent. I'm talking back in the day. Didn't he go away for a while?
Mitchell went down,
anyway,
Patrick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there was that. Yeah, because you get bigger salaries in Cape Town and Joburg. So yeah. So there's that. But in terms of maybe attendance rather than bands necessarily breaking up, there was that dubstep thing. Yeah, I remember that thing happening at Burn. Even at Red Door, they opened up a little second room at the back there and started doing dubstep for a little while. And Burn was doing the whole dubstep thing for that. Fuck, I didn't mind it, but I don't know. But for me, the biggest
disappeared.
But what's for me the biggest downfall in terms of attendance was bands overplaying and venues overbooking certain bands, and fuck it makes me so mad even to this day. Unless you're a brand new band and you want to get your name out there, you want to get on these little bills with some guys, 3 or 4 times, okay, cool, and then venture out and go get your name out on the road. But at one stage, and I think this is one of the biggest contributors to. So the gist of what I was saying is bands overplaying at a venue and venues overbooking, the same band. And I always say to Lighties or whatever, you guys are playing too much. If you want to play more, go take a drive to Joburg or Cape Town, or make a venue, make a private party somewhere. But stop playing at one venue 6 times in 3 months, or even more. It's stupid. It's gonna I don't care if you're Metallica. If you're playing in one region for over a certain amount of times, people are not going to give a shit. They're going to be okay, cool. Well, they play all the time. Let's do it another time. So that's, for me, that's one of the biggest things that killed. That's still an issue now.
Do you guys not feel that sort of something? Just looking at how metal is currently, do you guys not feel that is sort of something that can't really be helped or sort of fixed, considering that, for example, here in Durban, if you're looking at a metal band, you're going to be playing at the Winston. If it's not at the Winston, then you've got the likes of Matt, who, would take a certain venue and then host a show there. But it's sort of there's the lack of venues. Would you guys not say that contributes towards a certain venue being oversaturated? And it's sort of well, what can we fucking do at the end of the day? It's our thing.
I think one thing that sort of happened, especially down here in KZN, was we had very limited space to move around. I mean, I don't know how the scene was up there in Joburg, Cape Town, but it was like, oh, you can play Winston, you can play Burn, and back when Red Door was still open, it's like, okay, and take a drive up to Red Door, and that was kind of it. I mean, there was not really any scope out of it. I mean, I don't know if how many metalheads were like down the south coast or down up the north coast. I know there was like a hardcore gig that happened, up at Richards Bay that was that apparently like did really, really well. But I mean, just the scope down here in KZN was kind of compacted because unless you were willing to take a drive up to Joburg or up in Pretoria, you didn't have a lot of scope to grow.
But people used to make shows, I mean, they used to have shows in Toti, and like there were places in Umhlanga. They used to have gigs at the Wave House. People used to make shows back in the day, but there was more people back then. It all boils down to more people. And then as there were less and less people and the bands started overplaying, restricted venues, then it just, went down even quicker. That was the problem. Because it was going down in terms of, not as many people were coming, but it went down quicker because of the overplaying. And, that's the biggest thing, I think.
I think that's like with all the venues that have been closing, like overplaying hasn't really been an issue for the last few years because if you don't have that many venues to play, then, obviously like this, well, hypothetically speaking, there's still the same amount of bands that needs to play. So that would give the venues the variety that they need to have different bands, like every weekend or whatever. So I know that was an issue like a few years ago. And I know most of the bands that I was in, like, we were just like, no, we wouldn't really play unless it was like a special occasion. And then you get some bands nowadays that only play if it's like an international band that's coming down and they're getting to open for them, those are the only shows that they play. So I think different bands have had to apply different tactics in that regard. But yeah, I don't think that's really been an issue in Cape Town over the last few years.
I think demographically, sorry, dude, like, Cape Town has a couple venues within with the general Cape region, which is still usable to sustain a scene, but you wouldn't play like only at Mercury, 5 times in 3 months. You'd play, 10 Ks down the road, and then you'd go to Stellenbosch, and then you'd go somewhere else. So that's the difference between, I suppose, Cape Town and us.
Before I pass on to Marcel, I just want to ask you, and we could probably even start with Brian. Do you think, pre-COVID, because times have been a bit difficult. So pre-COVID, do you think, there was enough being done by, everyone who's part of the male community in South Africa, to sort of sustain it and keep it going and perhaps even get it back to how it was back in the day? Do you think enough was being done?
I don't think so. And yeah, I don't really know the reason and the cause for it, to be honest. But I guess there's not enough people out there that are willing to invest their time and energy and go the extra mile for the metal scene in South Africa anymore. That's literally my own opinion, though. I mean, you got like Pat from Middle of Africa and Cape Town. You got Sash from Emmerlith in Joburg, and now they do the SAMAs and all that kind of stuff. Even though it gets a lot of flack for it, at least they're doing something. At least they're trying. And I think that's the thing. A lot of us, like, I mean, I'm even branded as one of those people. I know I can be the biggest troll online. And I like to take the piss out of things. For fun, for giggles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, people need to do shit to make shit happen. And whether it's a great, you can falter as much as you want, but if no one's going to do anything, nothing's going to happen. And, those guys that I just mentioned, Sash and Pat, they take a lot of flack. A lot of people give them shit and stuff like that. And I think, if there were more people that did that, if there was a more unified effort, a lot more could be achieved. That's why just like with me as well. Like, I mean, I used to, when the band stopped, I was very like despondent about everything in the scene and stuff like that. And I was just like the politics and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to be involved anymore, to be honest, you know. And I'm trying to like kind of get involved in certain ways, you know, like just anything, you know, if it's being a judge for the Battle for Wacken or anything of the sort where I can help out, you know, just because of my influence in the scene over the years, you know, I'll do, you know. I want to get involved a lot more, you know. But I think a lot of people need to get involved, and like the thing I was saying, that's the problem. I don't think not a lot of people have that time, you know, or that energy to basically invest into the scene. So I think COVID is not necessarily the only downfall factor, yeah.
Is there anyone who disagrees with Bryan in terms of, you know, when he says that, sorry, Dan, bro, like when Bryan says that, you know, he doesn't reckon, you know, enough was being done. Is there anyone who disagrees with that?
I don't think what Bryan was saying is that like Pat. I mean, Pat's been doing this for years now, right? And like being a promoter in the South African scene, it's a thankless thing to do, you know, like honestly, like they never get enough credit for what they do. But if they make one thing that's seen as a mistake, then everyone fucking jumps right down their throat. And it's really an unfair thing. But the thing
and
is,
sound engineers.
Yeah. Those guys, like, we wouldn't have shows without them. So yeah. But yeah, like it's like there's so many. Well, thanks for highlighting that, Matt, because yeah, like I can say that it's not just promoters, but like it's anyone who wants to put their time and effort into the scene. It's a very thankless thing, and unless you really have that drive and like the passion to just do it because you know that that's something that you're passionate about, and you're not really doing it for any sort of praise or anything, then it's fine. But the least that people could do is start appreciating what those people like put in terms of sacrifice. And I think that that's also like a big reason why a lot of promoters just stop doing things, is because they don't like that, and people are spoiled. You know, where it's like they feel that they have an opinion on something that they didn't have anything to do with. They weren't involved with the setting up. They weren't involved with organizing anything. But yet they feel that they have a massive opinion. So yeah, like I'll agree with Bryan. I'll say that, yeah, like I don't think that there's enough that was being done, but with what I just said now, it's not surprising that there weren't that many people trying to, you know, like get in and lift it up.
Whatever happened to the Thorn Rose guys?
Which ones? The Thornfest guys?
Yeah, they're called Thorn Rose, weren't they?
Thorn Rose? I don't know who Thorn Rose is.
Well, the guys who did Thornfest.
Oh, that was two guys. That was Luke Street and another guy, Brad something. Luke became a game ranger in Kruger National Park, and as far as I know, I think he still lives there and does exactly that. And the Brad, I don't know what ever happened to him. I think I don't know what these eggs just disappeared. I have no idea. I think the thing that crushed him was that whole were they involved in the first time where Devil Driver was supposed to come to South Africa? I think they were involved, not the time, because Witch Doctor brought them out, but then there was a time, a couple of years before that.
I remember that.
There was talk of them coming down, and I think they were involved with that.
That was a couple of years before that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, quite a while, yeah. And then I think there was a bit of a fuck up, and then I think that's what crushed them. I don't know if it was financial problems or what, but yeah, I think that was the last straw. I think after that, I don't know the facts. I'm just talking on hearsay now.
You know, like talking about the differences in the scene and stuff like that, and was enough done in order to, like, pre-COVID and whatnot. What would you guys like suggest to both bands and supporters in terms of what is one thing you would say to do to bring about a resurgence?
House shows. Let people play in your backyard.
I 100% agree with that, because that's something that we have been talking about with Sludge for months, about trying to do things that in people's houses again and just bring that vibe back to it.
Because everyone's complacent. I mean, we're all complaining about the same thing. We don't have enough venues. But it's like, then what are we going to do, guys? You know what I mean? It's not like anyone's going to invest 5 million rand and go buy a venue. So if we're not going to have venues and we can't get investment for venues, you know, then what are we going to do to play music? Because surely there's ways, you know, people in townships can play music, you know, on a weekend and stuff like that. Then why aren't we doing metal gigs in car parks and like warehouses and people's backyards and stuff like that? I mean,
perhaps even take them to townships. That would be an idea.
Exactly, yeah. Like Gallows, like just before we played 2 shows in Vosloorus in the township in Vosloorus here, and those were epic. I mean, the guys there, they jawed hard. Like, well, I think quarter like 7 rand or something at the time. It was amazing. I think it was like 14 rand or something, but still, that's amazing. But yeah, I mean, there's different ways. I mean, if you look back in the day, I mean, Flip, Tweak and 16 used to play in the car parks at 4ways, and you know. And we play in skate parks. I mean, why are we not doing gigs at skate parks? You know, cool. There aren't a lot of skate parks, but there are 1 or 2 still available. You know, I think we need to look at other options. You know,
I played a gig at a strip joint once.
You've amazing. Never told me this. What? Tell me more, sir.
No, okay, I'm lying. It previously was a strip joint. But it just like, it was in the dodgiest part of town. And then like, as you turn around the corner, then it was like these bright lights everywhere. Yeah, it was back when there were more than one venue. But I think we must bring that back again. Geez, it was like in the arse end of, geez, what is that road name called now? I think it's one road down from where Old Burn was, but like going towards the Dodge side of town. It was called... Jam It, Damn It, I think it was.
Oh, I'd heard of that place.
Yeah. It's like it's all coming back to me now.
No, I'd heard of that, but I never went, but I heard about that place.
Yeah, no, I played 2 horrible shows there once. Well, twice, should I say. Yeah, there was like poles on the chair, on each table and everything, but it was, you know, like you expected the owner to come out with one of those like greased down hairdos and, you know, like big fake tan, and it was fucking dodgy. I dig those fucked up jaws, like where it's just you know, just like you just make a party and things like that used to happen back in the day. I mean, there was Mishy Jones, it was at the baseball park. I mean, we built a stage, like, I don't know what you call it, the diamond or whatever. And, you know, Oz would have like mosh pits like on this, in the middle of this baseball park. It was rad. And that was an ongoing thing. Pestroy played there, and and then just things like that stopped happening. That's why I started Pit At The Polo. I was like, you know, there is a market for it. But I think one of the things that happened was, like saying, everyone's complaining there's not enough venues, but people don't support. But also at the same time, bands need to treat every show like it's their last show, like it needs to be special. And venues need to treat every show like it's a fucking epic event. Not just like, he has some bands this week and he has some bands next week. And bands need to treat it the same way. Like everything has got to be an epic event, you know, like make a theme of the night or something. It can't just be like, oh, here's a show and here's a show. Because there are easy things for us to do. You know, we got Netflix. Fuck, it's easy. I can watch whatever the fuck I want, whenever I want. And there's a lot of this easy shit that's on our plate now. So bands and venues need to actually make an effort for it, because otherwise there's a lot of awesome bands, and, you know, like they play to 20 people, 30 people, like massive, relatively speaking, and it's sad. It's everyone has to put an effort. Everyone has to put an effort, you know.
If you have a resource and you have something to give, you've got to try. I mean, you can't just sit around not doing anything and then just sitting there and like, complaining, point out everything's wrong. When you have something to give, you have knowledge, or you have something that you can contribute to make something epic.
You know, it's. I appreciate the fact that, you know, we are pointing out, you know, we giving out solutions as well, or rather, you guys are giving out solutions in terms of how things can get better. But you know, there must be something that, you know, is sort of coming right, or that is happening, that is positive within the metal scene at this point. What would you say in 2020? Would you guys say are the positive aspects of that? I remember, since considering this is a second take, I remember that some of the guys even brought up the fact that we got more international bands coming over. Matt, you were mentioning there that you got Pit at the Polo. Bryan, you were talking about, you know, the Summers going on and all that. Do you guys feel that there actually is some positive stuff? And if there is, you know, let us in on that. Like, you're the people that are sort of that have a major impact on all the positivity that's coming through in the metal scene in 2020.
I think Jam Packs are doing really, really well. They're the guys that are bringing international bands, and they're bringing good bands too. So that poll that they did some beginning of the year, where they said either one bears you as and they dine, so I was like, how do I choose?
I think consistently, Duncan and his crew have been pretty consistent over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So
Matrix
so he's definitely a notable guy. But I mean, just think about what we've got in the last couple of years. I mean, we've sent how many South African bands to Bakken? I mean, that's shit that we wouldn't think was even possible back in the day, you know. And now we've done what? I think it's 3 times we've sent SA bands there.
Four.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's
Dane's
awesome.
one of them.
And one,
Yeah.
you won. Zombies won at one time. I mean, so that's cool.
Yeah, I
So I
think
mean,
that's nuts, man. Like, that a South African band actually won the international thing. Like, I think that was next level.
So you guys would say, you know, that there actually is some good stuff that's going down. Bryan, you reckon there's some good stuff going on?
Yeah, I think so. I guess it's just this year. I don't know. It's so hard to say really this year. I mean, not much has happened, so it's difficult. You know, I think like I can only talk like subjectively. So like if I think of like Gallows, like I mean, they managed to secure that record deal from their Wacken performance last year. So, you know, that's quite a positive thing. And they were actually meant to play a few festivals, European festivals this year. They'd all got cancelled, obviously, because of COVID. So that would have been a nice thing for them, you know. Same with Vulvodynia. I mean, okay, they had also a lot of lineups, a lot of tours in the mix and stuff like that. They got cancelled. So, you know, and those are 2 like South African bands basically that are now basically playing shows internationally, which is great for us and our reputation, I guess. So, but other than that, it's been a bit quiet and abysmal, I guess, this year. Not much to take from it.
That, I know that I mentioned Vulvodynia the last time about like the fact that they've been doing the international thing for the last few years now, and I think that COVID has definitely given a lot of South African bands a chance to kind of attempt to tap the international market as opposed to the local market, because, you know, everyone is pretty much in lockdown. They can't play shows. So what's the next best thing that you can do? Use social media, use the internet, and market the shit out of your band. So like, with that being said, there's a lot of bands that are pushing towards that now. And it would be cool to see, you know, like the types of things that come out of that, like probably by the end of the year and maybe early next year. Another thing that's positive that I've seen this year is, as much as it's probably like more trial and error, because there were like 1 or 2 glitches here or there with these types of events, is seeing bands like having live stream performances, you know, like Truth in Its Burden has that really awesome one where it was like proper like production and everything. Like, I'm still like, I must actually go and watch it. Like, I know you can actually still pay, like, what's it, like pay on demand or something to actually go and watch the set. Like, now I must still go do it because they're one of my favorite bands. But yeah, like things like that. I know that the previous was it Summerfest or Winterfest? No, Winterfest was done like purely digitally, and as much as there were like some issues, I would still call them teething issues because they'd never done it before. which is that 2020 has given us. So, you know, like we can't have live shows, but that is the next best thing. So I think that that's something positive to come out of 2020, is that, you know, the people that want to actually like promote the scene and get things done like that, like are pushing to still do things like that.
That's dope, man. But now what I want to bring up, guys, is that we can start moving towards wrapping up now. And what are some of your closing thoughts and some of your fondest memories within the scene?
There's too many to mention. Fondest memories. Shit, man. There's so many to mention. Like,
I think I want to
take a while to say Dawnfest.
I think one of my fondest memories ever was when Yesterday played at Tempos. When we started Facing The Gallows in 2007, before we had any songs, we learned we jammed 3 covers together. One of them was a Yesterday cover. And when they played, we were all very, very big fans of Yesterday. Like, one of our favorite songs ever was American Love. And there's a part at the end where basically the whole band does this like kind of like a singing thing, and they all like come in at different parts. And we all were there at the show, and we were like together in the middle of the pits, like sweating, had our shirts off, arms around each other, like, and singing along to that was like one of the most epic moments like ever. Like, to me, that was a great thing. Great moments. Epic moments.
Yes, that's beautiful, bro. Byron.
Favorites, fondest memories. There are a few. And I saw, and I watched, I would also say it was one of the international bands, was when I watched Bring Me the Horizon we play, and the last Wall of Death for Antivirus, like the entire wave house, I don't know how many people were there, just like the entire venue just became this big wall of death. It was absolutely insane. In terms of local bands, there are quite a few of those. I remember one of the cool things that we used to have down here in KZN was the From the Dark festivals. So one year we would have it at Red Door, the next year we'd have it at Berlin, and so forth and so forth. And that was cool because it was a whole day of just middle bands playing, like playing throughout the day. And I actually got some like really cool bands that we got to see, like Dane and Erebus, and like that. They were one of my favorite South African bands. Was like whenever I go to watch Erebus play, it was really cool.
Dude, yeah, they were awesome.
Dan, do you want to pick up from that there, bro? Your fondest memories?
Yeah, well, I can think of two. So one was, it was one of the first shows that I went to. The show was called Harvest Havoc, and it was at President High School in, was it like Paro or whatever? Anyway, so the stage was it was like a truck trailer, but it wasn't like you get these like truck trailer stages that are almost like, they're like built in a way that, you know, they fold out and it's like a proper stage. This was literally just a flatbed trailer, and they literally just like, you know, fucking like the band played and stuff. Anyway, so there were a few bands that played. I think it was the first time that I got to watch My Shade, which was the first band for the one guitarist in Megalodon, and that's how like him and I became friends. And it was also the show that, I don't know if you guys remember a band called New World Inside, but that was essentially the band before Foko Felicicar. And like that, they were essentially a Christian band, and that night like Francois got really fucking wasted and started going on about fucking Hail Satan and all the shit and whatever. And it was like one of the funniest things, but still it was just like, it was like a crazy experience as like one of the first shows that I went to. So like, yeah, I'll always remember that show. And then I think, yeah, like one of my favorite memories, just to think of anything to do with music in the scene or whatever, was when they announced that Megalodon won our round for Varken and that we were going to Germany. Like I wasn't actually expecting us to win. But like, I don't know, like I didn't know why or whatever, but I wasn't expecting us to win. I honestly wasn't. I was prepared for someone else being announced, and when they announced that we were the winners, I remember my vocalist is pretty fucking big, dude. And I remember fucking just like rugby, like spear tackling the fucking dude, like, and just like fucking hugging the oak, and like we were just like going fucking bedonkers, and then we went on stage, we were all like freaking out and stuff. I think yeah, like those two are probably like, and then just like an honorable mention would probably be the first time that we played at Joburg as well, because that was the first time outside of Cape Town. So that was with Betray the Emissary at Tempos. And it was that was a fucking rad show as well. Everyone in Joburg was so rad, and also some really rad bands. Your Name and Neon's probably like one of my all-time favorite local bands that ever existed. I think that's when we first met them and watched them play as well. So yeah.
Hey, that is solid, man. Matt, your side, to round us off on your fondest memories.
Shit, man. Just back in the day, I think probably around 2005-ish, maybe 2004. When the scene was, I think, really thriving back then. Burn and Winston were next door to each other, but both venues would be packed. I mean, everyone knows how small the Winston is. We won this Battle of the Bands thing that was getting hosted at the Winston, and like it was, when I say packed, I mean there was, believe it or not, the stage was actually smaller back then. They've actually added to that stage, and yeah, so you guys don't even know how small that stage was. I mean, yeah, if you had like more, if you had more than one guitarist, like, you practically had to like play on the floor, and that stage is low as well. Like there's a low ceiling, and it's a little bit more than a step just to get up there, and just people flopping around everywhere just because there were just so many people. Yeah, so I really, like back then, just overall, just shows were just so awesome back then. Winning that one Battle of the Bands was awesome. I think when we played a couple of times with 16 Stitch and the Narrow, those were always really awesome because, automatically, just by default, there were like 700 people there, which was rad. And then, I think we did quite well at Splashy Pen the one year. I think we played the free stage, so that was really awesome. And then probably the more recent memory, like that's been a highlight for me, was Witchfest. Not the first big one when Carcass came down. I mean, that was cool, but the one with Cannibal Corpse and the really big one, that for me, that was the best weekend of my life, man. It was just like 3 days of awesome, awesome bands, awesome international bands, and that was really cool, man. I really missed that. Oof, I wish you could do that again.
I think you guys collectively, with the stuff that you have going on, I feel like if you guys had to come together and start something like that can be achieved. Like, no lie. So there's hope. There's hope.
When I win the 60 million, I'll make it happen.
I feel like all of us feel like that at some point, man. Now, guys, definitely. It's been such a pleasure having all of you here. Thank you so much for coming together and actually just like having such a cool chat about the scene and everything around it and all your experiences in it. Like, it's just been such a pleasure hearing all of you talk so passionately about the scene that you've been a part of for so long.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Sick, man. Shot.
Like, so in closing, where can people find you guys on sort of social platforms if they want to listen to the things that you've been a part of or just find out more about you guys as people?
Demonparty.org.
Hey.
Just kidding. Obviously.
Come need to lead us here.
You're going to try to plug your OnlyFans accounts, Brian?
No, I don't have any of those. Sorry to let you guys down.
I think Brian, while we still on you for social media handles, and let the people know what you're up to.
Yeah, you can find me. So I don't even know where my handles are now. I've recently got into Instagram. So yeah, that's McBrutal. McBrutal with a double OTL, McBrutal. That's basically it, yeah. That's basically you can find me talking shit.
Is there anything that you up to, you know, that your followers and everyone can look forward to before we bow out?
For me personally, no. I'm too busy with life.
More meltdowns about Arsenal.
Yes, yeah. If you want to read funny posts about Man United, follow me.
Follow. Definitely follow. Byron, who are you online? What are you up to for your followers?
Well, I did mention last time that I actually picked up my guitar for the first time in like 6 months. So that was really cool. We've started jamming. I've got a few covers that I'm going to start doing with a friend of mine. I've picked a very difficult song to start off with as a cover, which is kind of like me. But if you do want to follow me on the socials, I have 2 Instagram accounts. I have photography accounts, which is at Blackbird Bowler on Instagram, and my personal page is at Byron Bowler.
Sick, bro. Dane, social media handles, and what are you up to?
I'm just part of the old school, I suppose. So yeah, like I only have Facebook and Instagram, but my Instagram is just like Dane.Canterbury. My Facebook, if you look for Dane Vincent Canterbury, then that's me. Band-wise, Megalodon's working on new music. Last One Live is working on new music. Dream Demon just released a music video about 3 weeks ago called For Me. It's on the Space and Travel YouTube channel, so you guys can check that out. And then, pretty much most of the music that I've been a part of is on like Spotify and what is it, like Apple Music and all that stuff through DistroKid. So yeah, like you can listen to The Broken Result, you can listen to Betray the Emissary, you can listen to Megalodon, you can listen to Last One Alive, and you can listen to Dream Demon, all on Spotify. Well, Spotify is my medium of choice, so yeah.
Dude, I just want to say I'm so stoked about Dream Demon, but this is a talk for another time.
Yes. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, dude, well done. Like before we move on to Matt, I think it would be an injustice for us not to play out with For Me, considering that it recently dropped, music video and all that. So I think we need to jam out with that there. Matt's social media handles and what are you?
Yeah, I've got nothing too crazy. I've got Instagram. I don't even know what. I think I'm just Matt Howes on Instagram. I don't even know. I think I've done like 2 posts. Yeah, and then Matt Ryan Howes on Facebook. There is Red Door Productions, which is the thing that me and Jamie, that we spoke about earlier, me and him, our little production team that we've got when we did Pit At The Polo. So yeah, there's Red Door Productions. Got a couple of photos of the recent things that we've done. Yeah, Pit At The Polo 2 is coming hopefully soon when lockdown ends. And yeah, then there's obviously the not so new band, even though Thorns of Ivory will get jamming again soon. Yeah, keen. Shot, guys. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining in. And in closing, it's at Sludge Underground on Instagram, at Sludge031 on Twitter, at Sludge Underground on Facebook. And if you want to stream and listen to the episodes, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. That's Sludge Underground Podcast. Marcel, who are you online?
I am Thorns of Sludge on Instagram, Marcel Smuts on Facebook, Marcel Smuts on Twitter, and Marcel Smuts on YouTube. Just follow me, talk to me, please.
Sweet, man. So for myself, it's Zwane. We're going to be closing out with Dream Demon. For Me, please do check out the music video. We'll leave all the links in the description. And yeah, guys, thank you guys so much. Brian, Byron, thank you for organizing this. This was really sweet. Matt, thank you for tuning in. Dane, everyone, guys, you all played a huge role, and we really appreciate you guys picking us as the platform of choice to do this. Thank you.
Shot, guys.
Cool, thanks, guys.
Yes, all right.
Yeah.
sunshine.